Hey there, ho there. This is Nuts and Bolts, where we take a look behind the scenes of some of your favorite episodes of Anime Abandoned's past. Holy crap! Just holy crap. And I think that the opening warning just kind of sets the tone for the rest of the episode. Actual bit of transparency here. That warning actually kind of came at Mark's behest after he overheard some of the audio from the anime.
Yeah, some of us actually have a moral conscience working in this outfit.
Oh, come on. That gives me too few credit. Too little credit rather.
Yeah. Like honestly, like after we went over some of the finer bits of the script, even before it was finished, because I still haven't actually seen Sins of the Sisters, but as it was being described and as I was hearing things in the background, like yeah, we need to put a warning at the top of this episode for sensitive viewers.
And I love how that kind of spurned this, outrage among people. Oh god, he's coddling his viewers. And I
It's like
always look
no,
I
what we're trying to do specifically is just like, look, top of the episode, there's a lot of bad shit in this episode, so you might want to walk away. And there were people that were actually very appreciative of that warning at the top of the show, while there were other people that are like, self censorship, whatever.
no like I actually edited around the more violent and the more sexually explicit scenes as best I could because what's the point of trying to show it since I was going to have to censor it anyway? But just and it came to a head when I just simply stated about the gang rape, and I felt that was both me and Mark felt that that was enough. Just me stating that it was there.
Yeah, that was because there was a lot of conversation in the comments and between both me and Bennett about like we are showing this, but we didn't do violence check, and this kind of became some of the worst parts of Violence Jack without the sustained terribleness of Violence Jack, and that's kind of what allowed us to continue forward with it and keep going.
Mm. And the reason why this is not nearly as bad as Violence Jack is because it's just too silly to really be angry at. And trying to comprehend the plot made me think about, weirdness. As in, like, when you watch a movie and you are not, and you're just left wondering, like, what was the methodology behind it? What was the decision making process? And it led me to thinking about, like, this movie in particular. What is it? I've only seen like a bootleg copy of it because it's not readily available. In fact, it was never meant for major release, but somebody somehow got a copy of it and uploaded it to the internet. And watching it is a trip and a half. Because this movie, just to clarify, this movie was only meant for certain patrons. Like Crispin Glover took this movie on the road and only showed it to a select few people who were weird enough and or just curious enough to buy a ticket. That's the existence of this movie.
That is the definition of our tour.
hmm And I felt that even though it has little to do thematically with Sins of the Sisters, was the closest thing I could come up with that same question I had with Sins of the Sisters. It's that question of why, just why. I mean, like when you look at the back and you realize that it's kind of softcore hentai, you're left wondering, okay, there's a lot of weird plots in hentai, but not like this, not to this extent. And even if it is considered hentai, it's not really all that graphic. They don't show penetration. They show sexually explicit scenes, hence the gang rape, but they don't actually like it's like plot first, and then every once in a while they'll shoehorn a sex scene in it. It's softcore in the way that Skinemax used to be softcore, except even less so.
Yeah, it just kind of felt like somebody wanted to make this story, but the only way to sell it was to throw boobs in.
I I I think that's a fair assumption, but like even if you take into consideration anime like Kite or Mezzo Forte, where they only got the funding to make the anime because Green Bunny said like, yeah, we'll give you the money, just make it pornographic, and so they just shoehorned the most like lumped together sex scenes that you could edit out and you would not miss a beat of the plot. And even though Axel Braun says that that makes a good porno if you're able to follow along the plot if around the sex scenes, that just kind of makes it so extraneous that why even bother unless you just want yank material. And to its credit, it's really well animated Yank material, but that's neither here nor there.
And well animated for the time. Like it's hand in hand with all the things that it would share on a shelf when I used to work in a video store.
Mm. But Sins of the Sisters is, like I said in the review, one of the most fascinating anime to do historical research on, because there is so many questions I was left with no answer, having plumbing through all the websites that I could find. And even though I found the existence of a torrent of the first Sins of the Sisters, or St. Michael's Academy, I had not watched it because I don't trust a torrent site within 10 yards of my computer. But so there's no real way of knowing what went on in the first St. Michael's Academy. But I have a feeling that the reason why Central Park Media never brought over the first St. Michael's Academy was because it was so religiously inflammatory, so inflammatory religious. It was like, if you look at the recap of the first St. Michael's Academy, throughout Sins of the Sisters, you realize like it's basically a war against organized religion.
Yeah, which becomes the downfall of any anime that tries to tell that story, as we have shown previously.
I can't believe that, two times within a year, I ran into the exact same character of Shiro of Amakusa.
Well, it
How?
just seems like every time that this happens now, like because like one is a happening, two is a coincidence, three is a pattern. So far we just keep running uh into this Kevin Smith idealized Jesus. Get him, Jesus! Cut him down!
Why is Jesus evil? But actually, when you really think about the whole anime, the fact that the main character just turns into a woman for no reason, well, turns into a Futanari, is actually the least idiotic and least confusing thing about it. When you think about it, it's supposed to be a hentai. It's like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's just a trope. But in conjunction with the rest of the story, like we said, it's not really a porno because there's too few sex scenes in it. So it's just this weird sort of happening that the porno demanded, but you just kind of have to carry around. Like it makes no attempt in trying to explain why he turned into a she. But it's just always in the back of your head. Like every scene that plays out, you're just wondering, what, why? Oh, and by the by, I promised Gabe I would mention this, but Gabe did fantastic work on my makeup as Old Man Sage. He feels like he's getting better with every application, and I wholeheartedly agree with him. And
And
I
he
foolishly left
prompted
him off.
you to mention that?
Yeah, because I foolishly left him off the credits as far as makeup effects, and I that was a major that was my bad. So I'm here to rectify the situation. Gabe did my makeup effects. Every single makeup effect you see in the video, Gabe did, and they're all fantastic.
Yeah, but I think that's forgivable because how long were you editing this for?
I'd say 15, 20 hours all told.
Yeah, I think that the omission of Gabe's name isn't really going to kill him the one time, especially in something that he's actually in, but fuck it. Um, yeah, Gabe does do a fantastic job with all the makeup because pretty much what it is that I do is what Bennett does to me in reverse. Like, Bennett will say, well, wouldn't it be cool if this? And then logistically, I have to figure out how that works. So when we're doing the script tightening session and bits get changed or stuff gets added, whenever there's a makeup effect, it's like, yeah, and blacked out eyes. And then that becomes Gabe's problem.
Well, to Gabe's infinite credit, he is like a Labrador retriever and you're holding a ball. And you're saying like, "Hey, there's going to be makeup effects." He's just like, "Oh, makeup effects, makeup effects, makeup effects." Cuz he loves applying makeup to himself, to other people. It's I think it's his calling, really.
He has a fucking tackle box full of kit for makeup effects. Like it when we did Violence Jack, I was figuring like, oh well, like he'll go out to Walmart and buy some shit, or like maybe there's a costume shop because here in Philly we have a Masquerade which is open all year round. But no, like Gabe is just the one man makeup crew, has his tackle box, fucking just drops it. like a 10-pound fucking sack, like, and it's just full of shit, like everything you would ever need. And I was just, I was flabbergasted by it. I was like, this man is way too serious.
Well,
like he's too serious for him to not be getting paid.
well, yeah, I do feel bad sometimes because I don't directly pay him, but then he just brings up the fact, like, dude, you know how many goddamn times you paid for my meals? It's like, no, I don't. It's like, just think of that as your payment.
That's it.
Like,
Currency of favors, kids.
yeah. This was your joke, by the by. The quick little praise be to Yevon.
Oh yeah, I will always fucking try and sneak in praise be to Yevon.
And right here, talking about the existence of a collapsed timeline, or like this general agreement to never bring up the past or ever talk about the past, is bar none the stupidest and most idiotic thing about this fucking plot. There's I can't even wrap my head around why or how or any of the five major questions. You're just left. You're just. I even trying to recall it. I'm left a stuttering mess.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, you are really bereft of thought right now, and like the nightmare is over, dude.
I know. I know. I woke up from it, but it's still there. It occupies a part of my brain real estate that will never ever go away.
Along with a million other useless things that you just happen to know.
Come on, just every once in a while, I just spring up with a factoid or some kind of little omission, and then you're like, "Wait, how'd you know that?" It's like, "No, I just know." You're the
And
one who keeps telling me that I should donate my brain to science.
you really should, because for all of this stuff that you just happen to know, you don't know things like, yeah, go to Walmart to get spray paint. They sell spray paint at Walmart?
Just all right. Is it my fault that we don't have an in-town Walmart? I live in the one major city that doesn't have a Walmart.
Which I don't know. Like, does that make your city like the land beyond time?
Or is it just hipster heaven? I don't know.
It's the last castle, the one place Walmart won't erect a place.
And I remember this scene in particular, that whole, oh, an S&M show, oh, please hit me, oh, please hit me hard. You were on the other end of Skype when that clip played, and I literally heard you face desking.
Yeah, and that was well before I saw the scene.
Now, you have something that I will never have, because oftentimes when I'm reviewing something that you haven't heard of and you're hearing the audio for the first time, have the ability to picture in your head what it will look like before you get to see what it looks like.
Yeah, but see, this is why it is that I could never do Anime Abandoned by myself. Like, oh, well, Bennett's going on vacation, but we still need to produce episodes. Put me in front of the camera. Like, no, that's never going to happen because one, I don't want to be in front of the camera. Two, if I were trusted to write an entire review by myself, it would just be this noise over and over again.
And that was the very first of the jump scares in the episode. Originally, the episode was planned around the fact that this was so, gobsmackingly stupid and just so otherworldly dumb that the prospective script went through several drafts where it was, how do we convey this? And at first, we had a Brazil idea where I would try to escape the anime, and then like it still keeps coming after me, and then this one moment of respite of quietness, then all of a sudden, flashback. No, I'm still in the chair watching the anime, which we did wind up using, but the whole idea of me running away eventually morphed into this more constrained idea of the Sage character being guilt ridden over attacking Gabe with the pair of scissors back in the Jungle Day Eco review, which was an idea that I never intended for at the beginning, but the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. Because when you think about the idea that Sage gouged out, accidentally, but still gouged out Gabe's eye, it comes off really, really hateful, even if we kind of played it up for yucks, which I still think is funny, but, the longer that thought process goes on, the more it feels, needlessly hateful. So I can't take back the eye gouging as far as the continuity is concerned, but I can at least address the Sage character's internal feelings about it, to the point where being reminded of it constantly to the point where he can't even look at Gabe in the face in the bathroom scene that's coming up in a few minutes, which I have a prepared essay for later on, but we'll get to that eventually. Now, this you see these scenes right here. They're setting up that this is the war that was fought before the whole time restoration thing. And those are clearly World War II bombers. And yet here they are fighting Shiro of Amakusa that happened 500 years ago. A boy.
Yeah, because we can play fast and loose so long as it gets our story told. I mean, we got to fill for time here.
Which leaves me wondering, like, all right, I will never, ever, ever try to torrent this at all, but by God, if somebody goes to Japan and finds this in a bargain bin and they send it my way, I will watch it in a heartbeat. I don't care if I have to spring for a PAL VCR player. I have to see this just to know, just to, for my own personal sanity and for my own sake of closure. This is just something that needs to happen. Although, let's, all right, be clear here. Don't actually go to Japan just to get it for me. If you just happen to find it, please don't send it to me. Please do not get this just to send it to me. If you just happen to have it, I guess I could take it off your hands.
It's just like, why? Why are you spending this money? Because Sage told me to. We don't need the responsibility.
No. Big Lebowski references never get old. I can't believe that I didn't make that reference back in the Ninja Resurrection review. That would have been perfect. But then again, I couldn't have used it here.
Yeah, exactly. Every reference only gets one. And we're gonna talk somewhat later about the two references that we used, and how at least one person was like, "Oh, it would have been better if this." But
yeah, that's for later. But now the summoning scene here is, if there was one particular moment, just this one insular moment where stupidity and nonsensical writing came together perfectly, it's here. Because nothing at all, logically or narratively, makes sense. This woman is having dreams of the past. She wants to remember them. The old man knows that her remembering the past would be very, very bad, yet does it anyway.
all right, stop making that noise, goddammit.
I'm sorry.
We get it. It's baffling. Yes. Um. Yeah. See, the thing about going through this was, first, like, I was working on something entirely different, and Bennett was just having to go over this like again and again. With art imitating life. And I was like, where did you even find this? Because, like, we found some weird stuff at the bottoms of bins at cons and various FYEs and things, but this kind of like, all right, this is gonna take the cake as like best worst review of the year,
maybe of all time. I mean, as far as the work that went into this review, it's second only to the Violence Jack episode. As far as practical effects, as far as digital effects, as far as commitment,
as far as totally not going to be able to do 3 episodes the following month because of how much work had to go into it.
Yeah. It also didn't help the fact that the script was written pretty much at the last moment. And that was because, as I said, there were many, many different versions of how the script wound up being. I wanted it to play off like a horror episode because it was going to be around Halloween time, but I had to struggle with the fact that it wasn't really a horror themed anime. So I kind of had to write around that, and also write into the review proper scary scenes. And this is the very first time that I had ever written or directed or even acted in anything that's supposed to be horror related. Psychological thriller, yes, but not horror. And the bathroom scene here is simultaneously one of my favorites and also one of my least favorite things about this review. I like it because I was able to play a lot with the lighting effects, as you see here. And I like the way I was able to contrast the orangish light that's coming in from the side with the darker blue that came in from the bathroom. And but the problem I had with the bathroom scene is that I felt like the angles felt a little too much like the Violence Jack review, and that's due to the fact that I have a very small bathroom and there's not a lot of room to work with. And right there is the sound of about 1,000 of the viewers shitting their pants. And I played that scene while I was still editing it for Mark, and even he, knowing what was going to happen, still did one of oh jeez.
I forgot. I totally forgot, and it was awesome.
I realize that now that how effective that scene is, if only because I felt like it was the only time where sound played a part of the horror. Like that whole shock and awe, that punch right in the face is for the viewer. And even though I'm not a fan of that for most how most movies use it, because it's I feel like that's using it for cheap, like cheap jump scares rather than actual true horror. It's not like it isn't effective. And I allowed myself the one. That was the one jump scare throughout the entire review, as far as auditory is concerned. But as far as the rest of that scene goes, I hated the fact that I wasn't able to get as many different angles in the bathroom as I wanted to, and I hated the fact that because of that, we had to adjust the shooting script accordingly because there wasn't going to be a multitude of camera angles or anything like that at all. So it was the one part of the script where I had to compromise. The final shooting script rather, that I had to visually compromise.
Honestly, like I think it came out nicely and it edits together cleanly, and like an abundance of angles isn't really going to help it a whole shit ton. Like yes, it's going to look like Violence Jack in a lot of ways just because we're shooting it in the same space. But like the body language is always going to be different. The visual language is always going to be different. So I really don't think that it's that big a deal. I mean, like at the end of the day, we could have found another bathroom and just filmed it in there because it's not like we had like one continuous shot
Well,
from your don't so like we don't have one continuous like shot that goes from your room through the hallway to the bathroom. So really, in terms of like geometry, we could have put that bathroom anywhere. It could have been anyone's bathroom.
mm,
But like ultimately, like keeping the shoot local. Like yeah, like there's going to be an overlap in what everything looks like, but I really don't think that it was ever going to be that big a deal.
I guess it's one of those times where, as a director, you just wish that you could have more freedom with the camera than you are given.
Yeah, but we had that conversation once about God of War, where like you give artists more tools, and all they want to do is play with them. They just lack the restraint to say like, well, I have that tool if I absolutely need it, or if I can innovate with it, I should use that tool. But they just want to use all of them at the same time, and it's the same thing what you're experiencing right here. Is that like, well, I already did this shot once. I don't want to replicate that shot, even though I'm physically limited to that shot. and
It's
and given like just like given that space, like if I had said like, well, we'll just use another bathroom, you would immediately have jumped into the element and be like, come on, we're going to go to another bathroom to film one scene.
I don't know. When it's hard to keep constraints as when you're trying to be creative because when you want to be creative, you don't want to be constrained. But there is the adage of art through adversity, and
Yeah,
whenever you're shooting on a shoestring budget, that's going to be a reality.
and what is it that you just said? You said your least favorite part of Anime Abandon is
Shooting.
mm,
My least favorite part of shooting Anime Abandoned is always the shooting. I like the creation process of it. I like what goes into the camera, what, winds up being for the viewer, but the actual process of setting up the camera, setting up the lights, setting up the sound, directing Gabe and directing any of the actors and directing anyone who happens to be operating the camera, if me and Gabe are on set at the exact same time, is a process akin to herding cats. Even if it's just three people, it's always controlled chaos. There's no such thing as a smooth shoot. There just isn't.
so see, even if we had the other bathroom, you still wouldn't have been happy.
No, no. But I might have been happier with the final edit, maybe. But well, that's the thing about maybes; it could go either way. But wanting to go back to the initial Charlie Day reference, I cannot believe your reaction when you heard those characters interact. And I asked you the very simple question: is this the worst dub you have ever heard?
No,
And it really,
no, it's genuinely not. Come on, man. You fucking reviewed Diatron 5. Um,
yeah, true.
you reviewed Diatron 5. You reviewed fucking Space Thunder Kids and Garzy's Wing. Like, no, this is not by far the worst dub that exists or that I've ever heard, and it's most certainly not the worst that New York has had to offer, but it's definitely in the top 5.
I had to really think about that when you bring up Diatron 5 and you bring up Space Thunder Kids. I feel like it's kind of unfair because those were Korean bootleg knockoff cartoons that got like Joseph Fly got a bunch of expatriates to get into a cheap booth and just bang it out. There was absolutely no thought or care that went into it. It was just like bang it out. Just we need to press this DVD for $1 at Walmart.
Yeah,
That
but
was
how much slack can you fucking cut somebody? Like eventually you just got to say like, look, man, it's English voices speaking, like doing ADR against a fucking cartoon. And this is bad. That's going to be bad. This is worse than community theater acting. Is this the worst I've heard? No, because Mega Man 8 is still worse.
ooh, oh, you're going video game on me.
Like I'll hip check fucking that all day. Like Mega Man 8 is still Mega Man. Like no. Like there are blown takes in the middle of that dub for the anniversary game. So no, this is not the worst dub I've ever heard.
I don't know. Like at the time when you heard it, you were a little bit more inflammatory in
Yeah,
your
I'm
opinion.
like I'm gonna be more inflammatory as I hear it, but like outside of that bubble of time, and given the time to really think about it, it's like well, like I know words. It's just the fact that, like as you get punched in the face, it hurts a lot, and then you think of other pains after the fact. It's like, well, it doesn't hurt as much as getting, a crowbar in the knee. It doesn't hurt as much as being slapped across the face when it's 20 degrees outside. Like those pains can be classified as worse. And like outside of the bubble of time of when we were first working on this, I can say it's like, yeah, like at the time it's just like, oh god, that read is terrible. But now I'm like, yeah, well, like it's bad, but that's just it. It's like it's bad asterisk New York bad.
And through some of our mutual friends, we discovered that there is a common link between all the bad New York dubs we've ever covered.
Which we're covering next year.
Yes, we are. It's going to be whoo. There is more. There is more to this than we could have ever possibly imagined, and it's basically it's been a long time coming since we've covered this particular individual, but we'll save that surprise for when the month comes up.
Yeah, there it's just to say that Anime Abandon does have a villain.
And we now know his name, and you will know his name too.
Yeah.
It's sort of like Dracula or the devil. Once you know its name, you can have power over it.
Yeah.
So this is the one of the very few sex scenes I was able to get away with showing because there's no real nudity being shown. And this, of course, leads to one of the moments where the anime just kind of steps on its own feet and wonders aloud, "Hey, this plot makes no sense." And I love the fact that the character actually faces camera for no reason to tell us to shut up about it. It's like, did the animators know something we don't? Like, there's so many creative thoughts and ideas that went into this that just baffles me if it wasn't made clear before. But that right there is one of the more subtler moments of what the fuckery. It's like these momentary asides where the characters look camera and break the fourth wall just to either drive home the plot that we already know or just completely trample on its own story.
I just can't stand this Muppet.
You mean Hans right there? You just
Yeah,
can't.
I just can't stand him. I mean, not him, the character. I mean, him as a character is deplorable, but just his fucking voice.
Well, that voice with that character is, I think, grounds for one of the most hateful characters ever shown on Anime Abandon. He's right up there with that rapist brother from Doom Megalopolis, as far as just pure unabashed. Why the fuck are you breathing?
Yeah, or anyone walking around in Genocyber.
Especially Genocyber. God, man, now that's a review I wish I could go back with, because there was just, I don't think I was hateful enough on that. There was so much that I covered and yet let it get away with. By the by, another terrible New York dub, especially episode 5. That was just, ugh. Are you sensing a pattern here, by the by?
Yeah, it's like just getting the best worst present for Christmas whenever it is that we get a New York dub. It's like, okay, like you want Bennett to review things that he actually likes, and that happens, and the memories review happens, or something that he'll just kind of offhandedly like Slayers. But when you want like Anime Abandoned Prime, that's when the New York dubs start coming out.
Originally, the month of October was going to be a month of positivity. I wanted all the month to be entirely full of positive moments, but it just didn't happen. It did not freaking happen.
Yeah, we genuinely tried. We tried to just go through the list, and because we usually plot out the show about 6 months in advance, so because we don't want to lock ourselves down, and you know the list changes as time goes on. You know, like what do we have time for? How involved would this be? What does Bennett have time to watch? Have I seen it already? So that it just makes writing that much easier, supplementary. Um, but yeah, like we tried to go positive, we really did, and the best I could come up with was, oh well, you know, Slayer's the motion picture, just because it's nice, it's easy, and it's, you know, it's encapsulated in itself. You don't need to know too much about Slayers in order to enjoy it.
And it's mostly harmless.
Yeah, and you know, it's the OVA, so Lisa's not in it, so I don't have to go to New York to go and film her doing something.
No, we're saving that bit for a later anime.
Yeah.
But originally, I had not been. I planned for Sins of the Sisters to be part of October because I thought it would be kind of fun to rip on it, and it was. But I had forgotten from the point that I originally saw it to the point where I watched it again for review purposes, that I remember just how nonsensical it is and just how hateful it is. So I didn't feel right in being completely like, oh, watch this shit. Oh, watch this shit. It's, there is an actual discussion being had by the end of by, by the credits roll.
Oh wait,
And it be
here comes another science fiction reference from the good old engineer.
uh have you I have forgotten to ask you this prior, but in a work of pure serendipity, it turns out the Nostalgia Critic had reviewed that film a few weeks before this release. So I guess some people ask, some people just ask plainly, like, did you make that reference because of the Nostalgia Critics? Like, no, of course not.
Nope.
Of course, we've seen Event Horizon before.
Hard sci-fi, bitches. I am hard sci-fi.
Although I am with Doug in that it is pretty goofy, and you are left wondering what could have been. Like, what was the movie that could have been but was never given?
Hey man, I still like it.
Yeah, yeah, but it was basically Doom 3 before Doom 3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by the by, again, yes, I forgot the you and the because. Additional management note right there. But here comes probably the biggest laugh between either of us. Like, this was, I knew this was going to be gold because I was laughing during the edit. That's when you know. That's when you know, as a creative person, that the joke is going to work. Like, if you were making yourself laugh with the nuts and bolts of it, right? Yeah.
My only regret is that we didn't box Dio in,
Mm.
like because we have the black bars on either side. Like we didn't box in Dio, we didn't box in the steamroller, and I like, and that would just felt like amateur hour to me after the fact. Now here's an interesting thing. I used to be anti clue joke, because everybody on Channel Awesome fucking ran it into the ground.
Oh, before that, John Cena. Continue.
Um,
I'm sorry, but that's
it's
just
just every time, just like it's just a laugh every fucking time. It just comes in like a steamroller.
I know it's
Um,
great.
but yeah, like I used to be thoroughly anti clue joke to the point when I would just try to come up with different what if scenarios that could invoke a what if reality in the show. Like, okay, well, this one's a save file. This one is we just, like whip out the universal remote and we rewind time. Like just anything I could to get rid of the clue joke. Because again, everybody on Channel Awesome at one point had run that joke into the ground. Um, so I figured that since it had been a while, since I guess I just have like my own statute of limitations on like how long it's been since I've seen the joke, so we can use it safely. So that's why it is that instead of it being a save file or the big universal remote that we've used before, it just became the clue joke.
That in 130 episodes of a review show, you're allowed to get away with that one after number 130.
Yeah, but I'm still thinking about like the ecosystem of the review universe as a whole. Like I'm thinking of the audience when I think of these things. Like how many episodes of whatever show have it like because they'll watch like multiple people's shows and okay, so like Faust did something clue joke. Uh, but like I know Doug did the clue joke more than once.
Before I forget, I wish I could go back and talk about this subtle little bullshit moment where if you look at all the girls entering into the room, you realize that one of the girls just kind of fades in and then becomes the old sage's assistant. Now, the context of that is that every so often throughout the anime, you would see that character in disguise just kind of skulking around a corner, just looking at the goings on, and you have no idea what the fuck that character is supposed to be doing. And then it's just revealed that he's just the sage's assistant. What? Okay, like you never see him or her. I don't even know the gender of that character when he's in disguise. It's sort of a chic situation, but anyway, Seek, sorry. But you see them just kind of skulking around a corner, and you're just left wondering what the hell is he supposed to be doing? Just listening? How the hell did he revive everyone? It's one of the mother of all confusing endings. Oh, and Garzy's wing right there, the freaking swan. Again, we will never escape Garzy's wing. It will just haunt us forever.
Yeah, it's one of the primary building blocks of anime abandon.
It was anime abandoned before it was anime abandoned, and the last edit for this was
So much compositing.
oh god damn it. If you watch the behind the scenes video, then you know that we got the effect of the static man using a green screen suit, but apparently Lewis did something very similar in one of his videos, but I'm afraid that's just going to be a case of like, oh, we didn't know because we don't keep up to date with Lewis's videos, unfortunately, or however you're going to take that situation.
Yeah, because I mean we're heads down working all the time, and like we'll try and catch up in like blocks, but generally we're pretty much out of touch at this point.
Mm. And this is one of my favorite shots right there, just that subtle little, like hand across the corner, followed by one of my least favorite shots because I am a terrible physical actor. I just cannot take a pratfall worth a damn.
Yeah, you really fucking can't. I don't know what your aversion is to running, falling down.
I'm a fat guy. That's what it is.
Uh, just take the hit, Bennett. That shot took forever.
Mm-hmm. That the compositing shot, not the actual shooting of a shot, that was actually fairly quick, but the compositing took forever.
We
Especially,
needed like 6 layers.
uh, It was, and it still didn't come out completely perfect, but it did at least come out acceptable.
Yeah.
Which at that stage, I think it was about 2 days, maybe about a day before it was released. That was as best. That was literally as good as it would get from the lighting and from the lack of lighting, especially, was a killer.
Yeah, now here's where the whole thing fell down for a second. The original shot was supposed to be that Gabe takes the DVD out of the player, snaps it, and then throws the pieces into the Violence Jack box, into the Demon box, which the original battery in that still works. I build them good. Uh, but then I get a call from Bennett, like, so CD won't snap. Okay, cut a groove into it, then try and snap it. Still nothing. Oh, for fuck's sake.
And in the behind the scenes, we did manage to record some B-roll trying to break it, and we were eventually able to break it, but it wasn't going to be that clean snap that the script demanded. It was just like this, a lot of stress and then break.
Yeah, and someone had suggested we microwave it, and I had thought of that, but I didn't want any fires to happen.
Yeah,
Oh, and
and
here's something else. People brought up the ringtone on Gabe's phone. Yes, that is "I Can't Be Cool" from the Ghost in the Shell soundtrack. However, that is not actually Gabe's ringtone. That was added in post. That is my ringtone, um, which we just arbitrarily needed a song. So I was like, fuck it, the song I've had for the last 5 years.
if there is a theme song for Mark's life, that would probably be it.
That's why I chose it.
Either that or Dirty Jobs. It's a dirty job, but someone's gotta do it.
Yeah, we decided for the quiet ending just to let the audience kind of sit and reflect and simmer and just kind of like decompress from the fugue state. Like, the fuck just happened?
Yeah, and thankfully I live in a fairly quiet neighborhood, so I was just able to record the white noise surrounding the area, and that proved to be a kind of a godsend. And I feel kind of bad when I do endings like this, because it kind of cheats out Elastic Inc.'s title card, playing us out with the credits. But I think the effect is well worth it. But we're nearing the end of the episode, and on behalf of myself and Mark, I'd like to thank you all for joining us, and thank you all for supporting us through Patreon. So we're coming back November 21st, so till next time.